I don't remember when this story takes place. I believe 2005-ish, but I'm not really sure.
Me and my brother had recently gotten a GameCube, and along with it came a Zelda compilation disc. This was my first real gaming experience. I was about 5 years old and was just old enough to be able to read.
And the thing about being that young is you're really stupid. So I didn't know how to save my progress.
Because of this, I ended up developing something of a routine with the disc. I would start by playing the Wind Waker demo. Here I would sail to the Easter Egg Island and try to finish it within the time limit. It felt rather nice to give myself a goal to accomplish within the constraints of the demo. Unaware was I that once I received the full version for my birthday, it would go down to be my favorite game of all time. After that, I'd start Ocarina of Time and play the opening. You know, I've played the opening of Ocarina of Time maybe 100 times in my life, but I've never finished the game.
Actually, I don't think I've ever even gotten the Master Sword.
No, when I was playing this as a kid, I would always manage to die in the first dungeon. To ice my wounds of defeat, I would watch the trailers that came on the disc. There's something super cool about learning the history of a game franchise you have an interest in. Learning about other games that exist and trying to imagine what it would be like to play them. Would I enjoy them?
Very stimulating for my tiny little baby brain.
Only then, at the end of it all, would I muster the courage to launch that loathsome game.
This game terrified me.
As the fog crept into the living room, the suffocating isolation would frighten me so much I'd find myself scrambling across the carpet for the reset button. But each time I would play, I would manage to sit through that cutscene just a little bit longer. Link rides upon Epona. His feet dangle, swaying freely as the chilly air dampens his boots. It's cold. His tunic is dimly lit by what little moonlight manages to reach him, revealing a dark green inside his black silhouette. His blonde hair bounds around him with each pace, lifted by a light breeze rising and falling like breaths. His skin, pale, clouded with the kind of anxiety that penetrates the mind so thoroughly you can't see a hand in front of you. Seeing Link, a heroic character that I saw myself in, being kicked off his horse and dragged across the forest floor, it filled me with a kind of dread that was new to me at that age. Majora's Mask is largely considered the darkest Zelda game of the series. The other dark game it gets most compared to is Twilight Princess. While that game is dripping with the edgy, hot topic melodrama that was sweeping the 2000s, Majora is dark in the same way Alice in Wonderland is dark. Which is to say, it's not. Now look, I don't want to be the media literacy police. I just think it's really interesting to watch how people will spin theoretical webs to try and explain away perceived logical inconsistencies. Why does Termina have a sky if it's underground? Why do people act so nonchalant in the face of the apocalypse? I don't know. Maybe because it's a fantasy game, because it's whimsical, because it's fantastical. Acting like this game has a secret dark message about how Link is actually dead or something brings to mind the same type of person that insists that Alice in Wonderland is actually about drug use or how Alice was just imagining the whole thing. Yeah, I'm calling you out, American McGee. Sucker punch. Zach, stop. No, put it down. What I'm trying to get at is, I don't believe this game is about death. It's a celebration of life and how it will continue to thrive right until the end. These people, they're acting rationally when faced with the end of the world. Unlike actual politicians.
But it had nothing to do with sex. I wasn't thinking about sex at all.
They're doing exactly what you and I are doing right now. Trying to ignore the problem, falling into depression, tying up loose ends, arguing, playing stupid games, enjoying their time with others, and finding ways to love. I spent the whole 3 days just walking around Clocktown. The people there seemed so real. They had schedules and lives outside of me. They existed for more than just pointing Link in a direction and slapping him on the ass like a horse. For perhaps the first time in my life, I felt independent, a feeling that growing up in a car-dependent suburb, I was lacking. At least through the screen, through this virtual world, I felt like I was a part of something, a community I could explore, permeate, and learn from. For one of the few times in my life, I had friends. So long as I kept my eyes locked on the screen, I could pretend they were real. I have a lot of social anxiety. At least that's the best label I have for it. It stops me from doing a lot of things that many people would find basic. Going somewhere new by myself can sometimes be a Herculean task. I'm in university right now, and I just go to class, sit quietly, and leave without saying anything. That's just about the extent of my social interactions. I don't bring this up because I want people to pity me or because I'm trying to convince myself that things shouldn't change. I want things to change. I want this to change. I don't know what to, but I just know I have a strong desire for change. I like to give myself little challenges to try and push me out of my comfort zone. I try to visit a store I've never visited, or I'll go on little walks or ride my bike when it's nice out. Lately, I've gotten really fixated on trying to go to the library, but it's really scary. As much as I want to, I don't want to. The idea of breaching that barrier, of entering into a place that I don't feel I'm welcome, is terrifying. And I don't need people telling me that, oh, I'm actually welcome in a library. I know that. I understand that. You can't logic your way out of emotions like this. That's maybe the worst part about having this kind of anxiety, is it just makes you feel like an idiot. I know there's no danger. I know there's no reason why I can't do these things, but I just can't because my stupid brain won't let me. Summer 2022, I had a lot of free time, so I got Breath of the Wild and spent a whole month doing nothing but playing while eating chips and occasionally taking breaks to goon. Like any unemployed man should. I was late to the party because I had a suspicion that I wouldn't like it. It's really amazing that this game begets 10 out of 10s across the board, yet there's an entire subgenre on YouTube of multi-hour video essays that go into insane detail about every single minute problem. Okay, I actually ended up liking it far more than I expected, and yet it felt empty. This game tickled the same G-spot in my brain that your average Ubisoft or Bethesda game does. The mindless wandering around a map of admittedly varied and interesting, but still empty and desolate environments while checking off the same 4 or 5 copy-pasted activities. A man could lose, I don't know, a month of his life to it. The shrines are ass juice, shat onto a sandwich I'm expected to eat with a smile. Half of them are the same combat encounter 60 fucking times with a Z-targeting camera that's so dysfunctional, I'm about to spike my controller through the fucking screen. Most of the puzzle shrines are so easy, I felt like the game was insulting my intelligence. There are so few interactable items in the rooms that you can solve them faster than it takes to load. Most shrines are no more complicated than knowing which object goes in the square hole, which means the only shrines that end up being a challenge are the ones where the physics don't want to comply. Apparently, most of these stupid design decisions were made to compensate for giving the player all of the abilities at the beginning of the game. Every single problem with this game exists downstream of that one ass backwards decision. How Numa, you sly dog.
Jesus! That's a good tutorial, right?
Yeah.
You finished the game.
What?
Multiplicative gameplay lets us reuse the same assets over and over again. Are you okay?
Oh, I have an idea. How about we make it so that the new armors and items you can unlock trivialize entire gameplay mechanics so the game actually gets more boring the more you play it. Creative and innovative design. 7 out of 10. Shit gave me a bad back. I find it really hard to disentangle my emotions. Sadness, anger, fear. Sometimes I can't tell them apart. For me, there's just happiness and everything else. I guess I'm lucky that, if not anything else, I just default to this neutral state of happiness. But it makes it harder to face my other emotions when they appear. Sometimes I try and think about what I want out of life, if I'm truly happy with where I am now, And suddenly, all these emotions that I don't have words for burn me from the inside out, and I just want to run away from it. I bury myself in games and YouTube videos and music so I don't have to be left alone with the silence. It's like that saying, ignorance is bliss. If I stay ignorant of what my heart truly wants, I'll never feel the heartbreak. The only thing heartbreaking is that fucking mustache. Oh! I don't have any friends. I'm trying to think of a nicer way to put it, but I do want to have friends though. And I think that's why I'm drawn to certain types of games. In most recent years, JRPGs. There's something about going on this long journey, seeing people's stories play out, and having this virtual, fictional friend group that really fills a hole in my heart. For a while, I was worried this would make me complacent, but if anything, the opposite has happened. All it's done is make me desire that kind of relationship in real life even more. When I watched the moon destroy everything, watched all my friends die, I didn't feel fear. I wasn't shocked. I didn't cry. I was simply, in the purest way, alone. Because the game reminded me that it was just a game, that I had to return to the real world, where I would look back over my shoulder and nobody's there. So I turned the console off, went upstairs, and talked with my dad. The last conversation I had with my dad was over the phone. In those last few weeks, he didn't like talking much. It was hard to get him to say anything. But I remember the day before, I did manage to get him talking. I don't even know about what, but I just remember, you know how sometimes you can hear someone smiling, like in their voice? I remember that. As of writing, on March 31st, 32,782 people have been killed in Gaza since October 7th, more than 1,300 of which are children. Israel's attack on Gaza is the most recent and violent stage in their genocide of the Palestinian people. 32,782 people killed since October 7th. The population of my hometown is 31,917. Every person I've ever known, every face I've ever seen, every nameless body I've ever passed on the road or at school, dead and gone. I can't help but think that they were all people just like me. They were kids just like I was. For months, my daily routine would consist of waking up and opening my phone to see endless videos of death and bodies mutilated. I see those pictures and I hear those people crying and yelling, and all I can think is there is no combination of words in this world that could ever justify this. Nothing could ever make it okay to do this. Each day, I watch those videos less and less, not because the violence has slowed down, but because there are less people alive to film it. All of this makes me want to rip my heart out and eat it because people are dying. And the best that I can do is sit here and make a video where I complain about how it makes me feel sad. Alienation is a terrible feeling. To feel like you are a part of nothing. You feel alone. You feel like there's nobody in the world that you can talk to, that nobody understands you. Growing up, you're often asked who your role model is. They expect you to turn into something great. They expect you to be extraordinary. We live in a world that only sees heroes. All of our history and conflict is attributed to the actions of once-in-a-lifetime great men. A story, like Zelda, is one of good and evil, of a powerful villain, and the great man that faced him and saved the world. As a child that loved Link, I'm torn. now that I've grown to be an adult, and I can't be him. I live in a world burning, yet where's my sword? Where's my shield? Where's my fairy pushing me to go on an adventure? Without any of that, I'm just alone. I just want to turn the console off, go upstairs, and talk with my dad. Summer 2023, I had a lot of free time, so I was excited to get Tears of the Kingdom and spend the whole month doing nothing but playing while eating chips and occasionally taking breaks to goon. Breath of the Wild was a grand experiment and a bold new step in an unexpected direction. A sequel was the perfect opportunity to fix those flaws and polish this new formula to a mirror finish. It was the perfect opportunity. I have to wonder, if I wasn't a gamer that understands how technically impressive it is that these physics can exist without setting my Switch on fire, how much would I actually be enjoying the game? The dungeons are a noticeable improvement over the previous game's Divine Beasts. Barely noticeable, but noticeable. The abilities are way more interesting than the old ones. But the fusibility does fuck all about the weapon durability problem. It's just the exact same shit with extra steps. The depths are cool, but they're way too big for how little variety there is. The Sky Islands are way too few and far between, especially when most of them don't have anything on them besides maybe a chest. And they do the same brain dead shit where they give you all of the abilities during the tutorial. I don't understand why they're so obsessed with avoiding good game design at all costs. Imagine if each one of the abilities was tied to a regional dungeon. Then you'd actually have an incentive to go and do the main quest. When it comes to the shrines, I'd say fuck them and put that development time somewhere else. But I guess so long as Aonuma's in charge. Aonuma? Thin fucking ice. Thin fucking ice. You could make it so that all the shrines that require a certain ability are in the same region that you get them, and just lock the gate if you don't have the required one. Or better yet, just give a little warning that says what's recommended so that players still have the opportunity to attempt the shrine, even if it might not be possible. While it is an improvement over Breath of the Wild, it's so slight that it ends up being a disappointment. 7.3 out of 10. My bad back returned. It was the middle of the school semester when my dad passed away. I was gone for a few weeks for the funeral and just to get my head back on straight. Returning was kind of a mess. I had to play catch up and ended up dropping one of my courses because it was just too much. But one of my professors was extremely kind to me, even when she didn't need to be. I mean, she basically told me, without saying it outright, that as long as I show up for the final, she'd just give me an A and call it that. It turned out that when she was in university, she had also lost her father. This person, who was effectively a total stranger to me, looked at me, saw what I was going through, and said to herself, you know what? I'm going to make sure that kid's doing okay. I never found a way to tell her just how much I appreciate what she did for me. That little bit of kindness kept my head above water, and I'll never forget that. I'm only 24, and I've got plans to live to 100. So I think learning how to identify and process my emotions is an important skill I need to develop. This is my self-improvement era. Each new day is just another opportunity to take a step forward. What is even the world besides just a bunch of us? Improving yourself is improving the world. You are a part of this world, and an important part. Never feel like working on yourself isn't important just because it doesn't fix everything all at once. You are still important. Everyone is. Everyone together is everything. If we're going to save the world, the revolution needs you at your best. Stay safe, stay beautiful. We'll see you next time.